In the heart of New York, the Brooklyn Bridge stands as a symbol of human ingenuity, towering over the East River like a colossal monument to 19th century ambition. It's been called the eighth wonder of the world, and for good reason. But what if I told you this iconic structure was almost sabotaged by a ruthless fraud? A betrayal so brazen, it could have brought down the longest suspension bridge ever built. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the shadows of history on Dark Matters. We hope today's story has offered you a glimpse into the complexities of our past and the lessons it holds. As we continue this year-long exploration, remember that every day brings a new tale, shedding light on the darker aspects of human experience. Don't forget to subscribe and tune in tomorrow for another captivating story. Until then, keep questioning the world around you and embrace the mysteries that lie within. On January 11th, 1877, a man named J. Lloyd High pulled off one of the most shocking frauds in history, threatening to turn this engineering marvel into a deadly disaster. You won't believe the lengths he went to in order to line his pockets with ill-gotten wealth and the powerful figures who helped him every step of the way. This is the shocking story of a man who sold out the Brooklyn Bridge quite literally before it was even built. It was the day when the fate of the Brooklyn Bridge was decided. On January 11th, 1877, the bridge's Board of Trustees awarded the crucial contract for the steel wiring that would support the entire mile-long span of the bridge to none other than J. Lloyd High, a man whose name would soon become synonymous with corruption. Chief Engineer Washington Roebling had warned them. He knew High couldn't be trusted, but his warnings were ignored. Why? Because a powerful man stood behind High's bid, future New York City Mayor Abram S. Hewitt. And Hewitt wasn't just a politician. He was financially tied to High's steel mill. By handing High the contract, Hewitt ensured steady monthly payments on a mortgage he held over High's business, the bridge's safety and the lives of those who would cross it. They were just collateral damage in this twisted game of power and greed. With that contract in hand, High set in motion a fraud so audacious it could have spelled catastrophe for the Brooklyn Bridge, an undertaking so massive no one had ever attempted anything like it before. Bridges in that era were already failing, and if Hay's scam wasn't discovered, the Brooklyn Bridge could have collapsed before it was even completed. So what was his scheme? It was shockingly simple. High provided high-quality steel wiring for inspection at his mill, passing it off as the material that would support the bridge. But the moment that steel left the mill and headed toward the construction site, it was secretly switched out for inferior, substandard wire. The approved wiring would then mysteriously return to the mill, ready to be used for another fraudulent cycle. The deception could have cost countless lives, and it would have if not for one thing. The bridge's design had called for more support than was technically necessary. Washington Roebling, despite his physical absence after being stricken with decompression sickness, had meticulously planned every detail of the bridge's structure. His genius may have saved the bridge from certain disaster, because replacing the faulty wire would have been an impossible task. But the stain of corruption was woven into the very fabric of the bridge. The thought that something so vital had been compromised by greed haunted Roebling, and it wasn't just him. The betrayal left a permanent scar on the legacy of the Brooklyn Bridge, a reminder that beneath its majestic arches lies a dark history of deception. The Brooklyn Bridge may still stand today, a testament to human innovation, but the shadow of J. Lloyd High's fraud looms large, a story of greed, corruption, and betrayal that almost turned an architectural wonder into a deadly disaster. Who knows what other secrets still hide beneath the surface of history's most celebrated creations? The fight for women's suffrage was a long and brutal battle. But few moments were as jaw-dropping as what happened in the United States House of Representatives on January 12, 1915. On this day, a group of men, powerful lawmakers, rose to the occasion, not to defend the rights of American women, but to strip them away, with an audacity that would leave you speechless. What you're about to hear is not just an example of shocking sexism. It's a moment in history when a deeply ingrained hatred for progress was put on full display. This is the story of how a twisted sense of chivalry was used to block women's voting rights. But make no mistake, this wasn't about protection. It was about control. And the man leading the charge? A proudly bigoted Klansman named James Thomas Heflin. January 12, 1915. The House of Representatives was the scene of a bitter, highly charged debate over a proposed constitutional amendment that would give women the right to vote. Among the men standing against this cause was James Thomas Cotton Tom Heflin, an unapologetic racist and Klansman from Alabama, who seemed to take pride in his role as the protector of traditional values. Heflin wasted no time making his disgusting views clear. With a swagger that reeked of arrogance, he stood up before his colleagues in the packed visitor galleries. "Most women now control one vote," he began, his voice dripping with condescension. "As I told a blushing suffragette the other day, if you are given the franchise, you'll control 2 votes in every household, and that's too many." Heflin wasn't alone in his mockery of women's rights. Many of the other congressmen joined in with smiles on their faces, claiming they were only trying to protect women from the harsh world of politics. Women, they said, belonged at home, away from the evils of voting and decision-making. But what they really meant was far more sinister. They feared the power that women could wield, power that could disrupt the male-dominated status quo. And yet, their debate never once acknowledged the harsh reality of millions of American women who were already working, already contributing to the nation's economy, and yet denied the most basic right, the right to vote. As the New Republic later wrote, these lawmakers never descended to sordid facts about women's actual place in society. To them, women were merely decorations in the home, far removed from the real world of industry and labor. And then came Stanley E. Bowdle, a representative from Ohio, who took the mockery to a whole new level. He began by offering his bizarre and almost creepy thoughts on women in the Capitol. "The women of this smart capital are beautiful," he said, his eyes gleaming as he looked out at the crowd. "Their beauty is disturbing to business. Their feet are beautiful. Their ankles are beautiful." But here's the kicker, according to Bowdle. Women weren't interested in the state. Their beauty, he claimed, made them unfit to vote. Bowdle didn't stop there. His tirade against women was so absurd, it became almost surreal. "Men and women are different," he said. "Different in every atom." He then mocked women for daring to challenge their God-given roles. In his mind, women had no right to question their exclusion from politics because, as he so eloquently put it, "I might as well weep because I cannot gestate a child." The men of Congress cheered him on. Bowdle's time was even extended, so he could continue his rant. The chivalry these lawmakers claimed to uphold, it was nothing more than a thin veil for sexism and oppression. And by the end of the day, their efforts succeeded. The voting measure failed, 204 to 174, crushing the hopes of women across the nation who had been fighting for their rights. This was a day when the ugly truth of sexism was laid bare in the halls of American power. A day when men like Heflin and Bowdle used their positions to keep women in the shadows, all in the name of protection. But the story of January 12, 1915, is not just about the cruelty of the past. It's a reminder of how hard fought the battle for equality has been, and how the darkest moments of history are often filled with the loudest voices of hatred. And to be frank, the misogynists utter hypocritical bullshit. Stay tuned to Dark Matters as we uncover more of history's shocking truths. Subscribe for more stories of corruption, oppression, and the relentless pursuit of justice.